If you gave me a time machine and told me I could go back and erase every dumb money decision I ever made, I wouldn't do it. And I know exactly what you're thinking about. Why would you do that? Well, let's think about it. The 5 worst money mistakes I've ever made cost me thousands. They stress me out, keep me up at night, but you know what? They're also the exact reason I'm good with money today. I probably wouldn't have the habit, the mindset, or the system I use now to keep me financially stable. So in today's video, I'm not going to flex about everything I did right. I'm going to tell you about the 5 money mistakes I'm glad that I made, what I did, how badly it went, so you can steal the lesson without having to pay the bill. Let's get into it. The first mistake I'm glad that I made was treating my bank account like a group project where I did none of the work and still expected an A. So for a long time, my budget was just math I did in my head while half asleep. Payday would hit, I look at my balance, subtract rent in my head, and just hope the rest would figure itself out. If my card didn't decline, I took that as a green light. Cool, we're financially stable. That was my whole system. And I remember this one month, I went out a few times, ordered takeout, bought a couple of clothes that were on sale, and then out of nowhere, my car needed a repair. Nothing dramatic, just expensive enough to annoy the crap out of me. I walked into the shop thinking, whatever, I should be okay. I walked out realizing I basically spent the rest of my money for the month. That was the first time it really hit me. I had no idea where my money was going. I wasn't in control. I was just reacting. And that's why I'm glad I made that mistake, because it forces me to go from I'm bad with numbers to no, I'm just avoiding them. So I started tracking my spending, not with big spreadsheet. I just write them down for the month. And seeing the pattern was honestly life-changing. The second mistake I'm glad I made was using debt to fund a normal lifestyle and acting like it was totally fine. What makes this really dangerous is that I wasn't out here buying luxury cars or designer bags. I was actually living a normal life. But there were trips I didn't want to miss, nights out with friends, outfit for events, and even a few random online orders that I bought. The problem wasn't one big purchase, it was hundreds of small ones that all came together and turned into a big balance that suddenly had its own personality. Like at some point it stopped being a little debt and became a roommate. A roommate that was charging me interest. Then I had this one month where I look at my statement and realize how much I was paying for interest over the years. And it wasn't like pocket change, it was a disgusting amount. Money I could have used for saving, for investment, for literally anything that improved my life, but instead, it just evaporated because I was renting my past decisions. And that's why I'm glad I made that mistake, because it finally taught me the truth. Debt isn't just a number, it's a tax on your future freedom. It's you working overtime so the past version of you can keep their bad habit. The third mistake I'm glad I made was upgrading my life every time my income went up. The first time I got a raise, I treated it like a whole personality update. Like my paycheck went up and immediately a new me was unlocked. New job, well, let's get a nicer apartment. A little bonus, we're outside. My pay increased, suddenly I deserve better food, better clothes, more conveniences, more Uber, more little upgrades that don't feel dangerous until they all team up. On paper, nothing looked outrageous. I wasn't flying private, I wasn't buying yacht, but my expenses were rising at the exact same speed as my income. Every time more money came in, I found a way to make it disappear. Not with one dramatic expense, just with 10% more comfort everywhere else. A nicer grocery store, more deliveries, treat yourself a little more often, even upgraded version of the things I already had. Then I had this moment where I looked back over the years and realized something that made my stomach drop. I was earning more money than I ever made in my life, and I have absolutely nothing to show for it. No savings, no investment, no buffer, just more stuff and a slightly fancier version of the same anxiety. And that's why I'm glad I made that mistake, because it taught me the difference between looking like you're doing better and actually being better. Now, when my income goes up, I don't automatically upgrade my whole existence. I ask myself 2 questions. How much do I actually want my life to cost? What if I keep my lifestyle the same and let the money grow into wealth instead? Because here's the truth that I've learned the hard way. A raise only matter if your expenses don't expand to swallow it. Lifestyle creep is basically your bank account getting eaten alive by small upgrades. If I hadn't experienced that, I'd probably still be chasing higher income, thinking it would fix everything, without realizing that the real problem was the leaks. The fourth mistake I'm glad I made was using spending as my main coping mechanism and calling it self-care. Like if I had a bad day, my solution was not rest, it was checkout. Rough day, I deserve takeout. Stressful week, I deserve new clothes. Feeling drained, I deserve an impulse purchase. And the lie I told myself every time was, I'm not doing anything crazy, it's just a little treat. But little treats aren't little when they happen constantly. They add up in your bank account, and they also add up emotionally because I wasn't processing stress. I was throwing money at my feelings and calling it healing. And one night I was scrolling through my order history and I noticed something I couldn't unseen. So many purchases were made at 10 or 11 p.m. when I was having a bad day. They were always the exact same pattern. Long day, low energy, late night scrolling, and then emotional cart checkout. That's when it hit me. I wasn't actually buying stuff, I was buying relief. And the relief never lasted. The package would show up, I get that little dopamine hit, and then 5 minutes later, I'd be right back in the same mode, just with less money. The fifth mistake I'm glad I made was waiting too long to start saving and investing because I thought I wasn't ready. For years, my excuses sounded responsible, but they were really just procrastinating in a suit. I'll start saving when I make more. I'll invest when I understand it better. I'll get serious about money when I get my life together. And the funniest part, I did not get my life together. Life never cleared its schedule for me. There was always something wrong. Higher bills, a trip, an emergency, some surprise expenses that show up unexpectedly. And because I kept waiting for this perfect, peaceful future version of my life, I lost years. Even a tiny amount of money could have been growing in the background. I remember talking to someone about investing and saying, I'll do that when I have real money. They just looked at me and said, you realize that everyone starts with no real money, right? And it kind of caught me off guard in a way. So I finally started small, like almost really small. A tiny automatic transfer, a simple investing, nothing fancy, nothing complicated. And at first it felt pointless until it didn't. Because once I saw it growing even slowly, I got mad. Not at the money, but at the time I wasted waiting. That's why I'm glad I made that mistake, because that regret taught me something I needed to learn. Saving and investing isn't something future me does. The only me that exists is the one right now making choices in real time. So now, no matter what season I'm in, I'll try to save or invest in something. Even if it's small, even if it's symbolic, because I learned the hard way that time is the one thing you don't get a refund on. So these are the 5 mistakes I'm glad that I made, and I hope you don't have to make them. So thank you guys for watching today's video. If you gain any value from this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and push the notification bell for more on sustainable fashions, personal finance, and minimalism. I'll see you guys on my next video.